Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel which is Explore Yourselves, Banking and General Knowledge etc. Bank of India Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Policy. Equality of every person under the law is guaranteed by Article 14 of the Indian Constitution. A safe workplace is a woman's legal right and sexual harassment constitutes a gross violation of women's right to equality and dignity. Often it is excused as harmless and trivial. Contrary to these perceptions, it causes serious harm and is also a strong manifestation of sex discrimination at the workplace. This leads to poor productivity and a negative impact on lives and livelihoods. Though sexual harassment at the workplace has assumed serious proportions, women usually do not report the matter to the concerned authorities in most cases due to fear of reprisal from the harasser, losing one's livelihood, being stigmatized, or losing professional standing and personal reputation. The Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013, herein after called as the Act, has come into force and same has been published in the Gazette of India Extraordinary Part 2 Section 1 dated the 23rd April 2013 as Act number 14 of 2013. The Act was amended and published in the Gazette of India Extraordinary Part 2 Section 1 dated the 9th May 2016. Accordingly, while the policy is made in alignment with the Act and covers all the key aspects of the Act, for any further clarification, reference shall always be made to the Act and the provisions of the Act shall prevail. The Act was enacted to ensure safe working spaces for women and to build work environments that respect women's right to equality of status and opportunity. Very often, situations that start off innocently end up in inappropriate and unprofessional behaviors. It is important to remember that workplace sexual harassment is sexual, unwelcome, and the experience is subjective. It is the impact and not the intent that matters, and it almost always occurs in a matrix of power. The mandate 1. Section 2N of the Act defines sexual harassment as follows. Sexual harassment includes any one or more of the following unwelcome acts or behavior, whether directly or by implication, namely a. Physical contact and advances, or a demand or request for sexual favors, or making sexually colored remarks or remarks of a sexual nature about a person's clothing or body, showing pornography, or making or posting sexual pranks, sexual teasing, sexual jokes, sexually demeaning or offensive pictures, cartoons, or other materials through email, SMS, MMS, etc. Repeatedly asking to socialize or continued expressions of sexual interest against a person's wishes. Giving gifts or leaving objects that are sexually suggestive. Gift teasing, innuendos and taunts, physical confinement against one's will or any such act likely to intrude upon one's privacy. Persistent watching, following, contacting of a person and any other unwelcome physical, verbal or non-verbal contact of sexual nature. 2. Section 3 of the said Act provides that no woman shall be subjected to sexual harassment at a workplace. As per the Act, the following circumstances, among other circumstances, if it occurs or is present in relation to or connected with any act or behavior of sexual harassment, may amount to sexual harassment. Implied or explicit promise of preferential treatment in her employment, or implied or explicit threat of detrimental treatment in her employment, or implied or explicit threat about her present or future employment status, or interference with her work, or creating an intimidating or offensive or hostile work environment for her, or humiliating treatment likely to affect her health or safety. Complaint filing. 1. A complaint of sexual harassment can be filed in writing within a time limit of 3 months from the date of incident, and in case of a series of incidents, within a period of 3 months from the date of last alleged incident. This may be extended to another 3 months by the internal committee if the committee is satisfied about the circumstances which prevented the aggrieved woman from filing the complaint within the stipulated period. 2. Where such complaint cannot be made in writing, the presiding officer or any member of the internal committee, as the case may be, shall render all reasonable assistance to the aggrieved woman for making the complaint in writing. 3. Where the aggrieved woman is unable to make a complaint on account of her physical incapacity or death or otherwise, a complaint may be filed by her legal heir or her relative or friend or co-worker or any person who has knowledge of the incident with the written consent of the aggrieved woman, or an officer of the National Commission for Women or State Women's Commission, or where the aggrieved woman is unable to make a complaint on account of her mental incapacity, a complaint may be filed by a relative or friend, or a special educator, or a qualified psychiatrist or physiologist, or the guardian or authority under whose care she is receiving treatment or care, or any person who has knowledge of the incident jointly with a relative or friend or a special educator or qualified psychiatrist or psychologist or guardian or authority under whose care she is receiving treatment or care. 5. An aggrieved domain may submit the complaint in a specified format addressing the same to presiding officer, internal committee. The complainant shall submit the complaint in writing along with the supporting documents, names and addresses of the witnesses in support of her complaint. Nodal officer should guide the complainant in that regard. 6. Bank shall provide assistance to the aggrieved woman if she so chooses to file a complaint in relation to the offence under the Indian Penal Code 45 of 1860 or any other law for the time being in force. 7. Banks shall also cause to initiate action against the perpetrator or if the aggrieved woman so desires where the perpetrator is not an employee in the workplace at which the incident of sexual harassment took place. Bank of India SHE box. The BOI Sexual Harassment Electronic Box BOI SHC box is an effort of the bank to enable any woman employee facing sexual harassment to register their complaint through our HRMS portal. 2. Although the complaints can be filed in any form, them offline or online, it is suggested to fill the complaints through HRMS to show that the complaint is directed toward the proper channel for resolution. For registering complaints through the BOI SHG box, the complainant needs to visit the HRMS portal and fill up the relevant columns. If complainant is different from the aggrieved domain, if complainant is an employee, he or she can file the complaint through HRMS on behalf of the aggrieved domain after obtaining her written consent. If the complainant is not an employee, he or she should submit the hard copy of the complaint to the HR department of the concerned zone, FGMO, or to the presiding officer or any member of the internal committee. Complaints received in offline mode by Jones, FGMO, IC needs to be entered in BOI SHE box HRMS portal by the HR departments of the Jones FGMO as per the rights provided in HRMS. Once the complaint is resolved and recommendations of the IC are implemented, the same also needs to be updated in HRMS for proper data collection or onward reporting. A register will also be developed in HRMS for record keeping and other purposes. Interim relief. Number 1. During the pendency of an inquiry on a written request made by the aggrieved domain, the internal committee, if so satisfied, may recommend to General Manager HR or General Manager FGMO or General Manager or concerned office to transfer the aggrieved domain or the respondent to any other workplace or grant leave to the aggrieved domain up to a period of 3 months or grant such other relief to the aggrieved domain as may be prescribed. To remove the respondent as appraiser, reviewer or acceptor for the complainant forthwith with respect to performance appraisal of the complainant and assign the same to some other officer or vice versa. To remove the respondent as reporting authority if the respondent has been reporting authority for work of complainant or vice versa. The leave granted to aggrieved domain under this provision shall be in addition to the leave she would be otherwise entitled. On the recommendations of the internal committee, the concerned office shall implement the above recommendations and send the report of such implementations to the internal committee. Appeals. Procedure to appeal against the findings of the IC and further legal remedies. Any person, including the respondent, complainant, the witness, who is aggrieved by the recommendations of the IC, may file an appeal before the appellate authority as per the specified format. The appeal may be filed against acceptance of the recommendations within 90 days from the date of the recommendations. The appeal so made shall be disposed of by the appellate authorities mentioned above as early as possible, but not later than 90 days of such filing. The appellate authority may take an independent view and may either concur with the findings of the IC or may order reinvestigation into the matter by higher or separate committee. Any person further aggrieved by the decision of the appellate authority to implement or otherwise of the recommendations of the IC may pursue such further legal remedies as are available under applicable law. However, the appeal should not be the reason to delay the implementation of the recommendations of the IC, and the same should be implemented within 60 days by the concerned authority. Gender neutrality. There is a rise in sexual harassment cases against other genders too. Hence, to make the policy more gender neutral, this policy will also be applicable to employees of other genders also, who are employed by the bank for any work on regular basis, including the probationers. The internal committee shall also look into the matters related to the complaints from other genders. It is advised to include more members from other genders also in the committee, keeping provisions of the Act intact. Source: Bank of India website. For more details with more clarification, visit above source. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, share and subscribe.